This is the basketball show. What they gonna say next?
Well, yes, it's that time of the week again. The basketball show proudly brought to you by TCL, 2K and News Corp. I'm Jo Healy. This, of course, is Shane Hill. Hammer, how are you?
What a week of basketball. In the
Feels
hub,
like there's been
calling
a lot
games.
going on.
NBA, we've got Derek Rucker on. He's always got an opinion. Always talking about how he wins. I don't see how he wins, but anyway.
Something else very exciting that's happened.
Oh, yes.
They've launched the Women's World Cup, 500 days to go. It's really exciting.
There hasn't been enough discussion. I know there's 500 days, it's a long time, but there hasn't been enough discussion. You know, they talk about netball and the soccer and all the rest of it. We need a little bit of love here, and there's some great things happening for the World Cup.
I actually got a note this morning from a family friend already asking for when tickets are on sale.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Bring that on, and a massive investment into junior players and women's players, right?
The sportsmen are announcing $1 million, which will be handed out before the actual Women's World Cup. So a great initiative to really get people involved and into it before the
And it's what we need. We need more young girls playing basketball in under 12s that fall in love with the game and follow it all the way through. And they need these superstars that they can go and watch to be able to play and want to emulate and have a passion and goals for. So it's a fantastic time, and they're very lucky to be playing in front of their home country. I was lucky enough to go to 2000, and it's the best time when you've got your friends and family and you're playing a major event here, and we know our girls are a chance to win a medal. So very, very special times.
Yeah, can't wait for it. It's going to be awesome. Let's get into our TCL starting five. This week, Andre Lemanis announced that he's leaving the Bullets next season. They've been holding interviews for the job.
Yes.
Talk to me.
Well, I thought you were going to ask me about CJ Bruton.
You can tell me about CJ Bruton.
Well, CJ's one that has gone for an interview this week. I'd love to see CJ get a job in the NBL. I'm not sure it'll happen, but I would love it. He's been there 5 years, was an unbelievable player, great thinker of the game, and he's done his time, and I reckon he deserves an opportunity. And like I say, I'm not sure it'll happen, but I'd like to see it.
Who else do you think would be a good candidate for the role?
Well, my favourites, I like Paul Hanare. And he's coaching overseas at the moment, but I think he's just a great coach. Massive mistake for New Zealand to let him go. And the other one's Sean Dennis, that used to coach, obviously, in Townsville, been overseas for a long time as well. I think he would be great to bring him back to the country as well. Would be a great fit and a different mindset than the way Andre was to go to Brisbane. But there's a bit of talk that nearly half the league could be changing coaches.
Well, this is our next point. It's a bit of a coaching merry-go-round, so it seems.
Well, you broke it, we broke it a couple of weeks ago. Brian Goorjian may be on the move from Illawarra.
Heading to the Phoenix,
The
so
Phoenix,
we're told.
well, they've all denied it. Even more reason why we think it might happen.
Which means Simon Mitchell is out of the job. Reports are that Connor Henry could potentially be out of Adelaide.
He's gone, is he?
Potentially, just talking.
Mike Kelly?
Same deal.
Okay.
So lots of jobs up for grabs.
Interesting stuff.
What about somebody like a Brett Brown, who's
Well,
probably
not
obviously
the right person to ask, but no, I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Anyone else out there who's, still
I've given you my two, Hanare
Joey,
and Sean Dennis. They're the two.
Joey Wright. No, but that was for Brisbane.
Yeah, but I think, Brisbane's got the advantage on everybody else because they can go early and they can pick whoever they want that wants to be able to come here early. Yep. Everybody else, because they've got current coaches and are still juggling through the season, Brisbane's got a really big advantage right here.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Let's move on. Another top-of-the-table clash this week, Perth and Melbourne.
Yep.
Perth absolutely had United the other night when they played.
Killed them.
That was in Melbourne as well.
Robotical.
Back in front of the Red Army this week. Who wins?
Oh.
Bearing in mind Will Magnay may suit up again, might start getting some minutes.
Yeah, I think they'll just slowly ease him in, and they're playing some good basketball anyway. Great to see Bryce Cotton back, making a whole lot of shots as well. He looked like the old Bryce. Mooney doing what he's doing. They look great back at home. You'd have to favour them probably to win this game against Melbourne. When Magnay gets better, it's going to even things up when it gets to a series if Melbourne finish on top. Bit of a flip of the coin, but probably still slightly ahead for Melbourne United, just on depth.
The Phoenix.
Yes.
Something is wrong. We don't know whether it's about the fact that the There's a coach situation there going on. Mitch Creek not in form. Kiefer Sykes, I think he had 8 points the other night. Something's not right. It's
There's
not
no
gelling.
passion. There's no leadership. No accountability. They're not holding each other to account defensively. They're just like a sieve. They don't care.
So how do you fix that up?
It's tough. Comes with a selection of people at the start of the year. They were a poor defensive team last year. They're poor again this year. You need people to be able to buy in and make a stand to be able to get stops. And right now, they're just not doing it. They're not into it. They're not. You don't see any passion or love for the game. It's a long season, so it's difficult circumstances. But all the teams are going through that. So you've got to find a way through your leaders to make a stand and to be able to rally the troops to be able to get it done. And right now, for whatever reason, they look horrendous.
They are still in the hunt for the top four. I think they've got the Taipans and Breakers this week, so perhaps a couple of good games where they can take advantage of the matchup there.
Well, they could quite easily come back, but it's just difficult to change a mindset, and that's where it starts and stops. They've got the talent to beat anyone in the competition, but until things change internally and they take a look at themselves to be able to bring it, they're not bringing it. They're not even having a crack right now.
Well, finally, Cam Oliver has joined the Houston Rockets on a 10-day contract, joining Jayshawn Tate over there, which is really exciting for him. I know you were skeptical about the fact that he's still contracted to the Taipans for next season and whether he would come back at all.
Yeah.
Does this change your opinion at all?
Change it or enhance it? I mean, I'm happy that he's getting an opportunity in the NBA. I think he's an NBA talent. He didn't handle his job well here this year through difficult circumstances. Everyone's been struggling through what they had to deal with in a long season, and he didn't handle it well. But I'm happy that he gets an opportunity to play at the next level. I'm sure his game, his body language, his mindset, everything changes for this new opportunity. And I'm sure he'll do really well. So I wouldn't think that he'd be back next year.
Let's hope so. He's playing the last 4 games. They've got the Blazers, Lakers, Clippers and Hawks, all teams, drop my pen, that are vying for either the playoffs or the play-in tournament. So it's not going to be an easy run for them, but we wish him all the best. Jayshawn Tate as well.
How good.
2 rebounds shy of a triple-double in his last outing, which is excellent.
Been incredible.
He
really has.
We talk about him every week.
If Cam Oliver played like that, he'd be a superstar in the NBA.
We'd be happy.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to teach though.
Well, it's time to bring in Derek Rucker, as we do every week, for our favourite segment, Points Made. D-Ruck, hello to you. I want to ask you about Will Magnay. He's obviously signed with Perth. He suited up the other day but didn't play, just trying to work himself into things. What does this do for their prospects this season?
Having Will Magnay and their team lifts their chances tremendously. And I know you guys were on your little high horse a couple of weeks ago when Perth were struggling and Bryce Cotton was looking worn down and they lost to New Zealand. But you know what they did, Shane? They went to Melbourne United and smacked them right in the throat. And then on top of that, they got Will Magnay. This thing is OVA over.
Over. Okay. Well, I agree that it totally changes their prospects. And what they did is they went to their bank account, they dug deep and they paid big money, because that's what they do late in the season when they realise they're not going to get it done in a series with what they've got. And to their credit, they've been able to make big plays at the right time. And Will Magnay is the perfect complement to Bryce Cotton and John Mooney. He just fits in. Mooney can play that 4 spot with the athleticism and shot blocking ability of Magnay. They are a legitimate chance to now compete in a series with United.
Hey, look here. Without Magnay, they were going to win a grand final series against Melbourne United 3-2. Now it might be a gentleman's sweep 3-1 or maybe a complete broom 3-0. This thing is over.
Well, there you go. I want to ask you about the way that Magnay, I guess, came back to Australia. He was in quarantine almost secretly, but the situation with the Bullets, what did you make of the way that that played out in terms of the contract negotiations and the fact that he is now on the other side of the country?
Look, this is a complex issue. Ultimately, Shane, I believe when these occurrences happen, and it's not good for anyone, let's get that straight. It's not good for Will. It's not good for the league. It's not good for the Bullets. And the writer, Jacqueline Magnay, is an esteemed writer. She's a very accomplished journalist. She's done a lot of high-level investigative work. but she is also related to Will Magnay. And I think for someone of her caliber to compromise her journalistic integrity was a bit surprising, actually having personal relationships with her on stories over the years. So there's that. Now, the Bullets feel like they have done nothing wrong, Shane. They feel like they handled it perfectly well. They don't think there was any ethical conduct in which they should be ashamed of. And they are happy to wipe their hands clean of Will Magnay, which is it's crazy when you think about it. You're just happy to let a talent like that go. But one thing I'm not clear of, Shane, did Magnay and his people actually have to pay $70,000?
Well, and I think that's where the Brisbane Bullets have to come out and fill in some of the gaps. It's hard to have an educated decision where you don't understand all the information that goes on. The shame for me is that they put time into Will Magnay, and for whatever reason that we don't quite understand yet, they've lost an NBA prospect that could have been coming back and representing them through whoever's fault it is. So it's disappointing. I'm happy to see him back in the NBL, but the Bullets have to come out. They've got to tell us exactly what went on so we can have an educated opinion.
One thing that is for sure is that Will has spoken about this. He spoke to ESPN. He's spoken to a couple of people since he's been back. He has been nothing but respectful to the Bullets, which has been great. He's mentioned the fact that he knows that Perth will be in the final, so it means that he gets a few extra games under his belt as well. I mean, that's a decent reasoning, isn't it?
Yeah. The thing I wanted to ask Shane also is if he was under contract and the Bullets had his rights. Now, look, that money that they were asking for was for his NBA release. But let's look at the NBL transfer. Do you think the Bullets have a right, given their investment of time, money, energy into Will Magnay and developing his skill set? Do you think the Bullets, by releasing him from his contract, should be entitled to compensation from the Wildcats?
Well, I think that's where we just need to know details of what the agreement was when he left. I think that's the biggest thing that we just haven't heard from the Bullets or Magnay. So it's hard to have an opinion when you just don't understand the facts. I just think it's disappointing that Brisbane weren't able to retain him through whatever. It might be through fault of their own of being able to get it done. I understand Will wants to come back and go to the best team, have a chance to win a championship, get developed and improve his opportunities to go to the NBA as well.
Right, let's keep things moving. We know Melbourne United and Perth will be 1 and 2. Who is going to be 3 and 4 though? Hammer, the 36ers, my team, they've won 3 in a row. They are threatening.
Well, they are. They're playing their best basketball, there's no doubt about that. But I think it's just a little bit too far gone. I've gone with the Sydney Kings, who poked themselves in the eye yesterday. They weren't good after giving up a 16-point lead. But I'm going to go, and this will surprise you, I'm going to go with the Brisbane Bullets, who have got a lot of home games. They've got a new import back in. And I think that with the opportunity that's presented, I think it helps them knowing that Andre Lamanis isn't going to be there. Maybe he relaxes a little bit. He loosens everything up. Maybe players are playing for contracts where they think Andre's not there anymore. I better start pulling my finger out and start producing because I haven't been doing what I needed to do for a little while. So now I've got to produce.
Well, on that Bullets coaching search, I mean, they've gone through a number of people and they're very confident they're going to get the man that they want. It's tough right now, with so many quality coaches overseas looking for opportunities. The NBL has built up as a competition. But let's get to the question. The team is going to be the Brisbane Bullets. I told you that a couple of weeks ago. Once they returned off of that COVID stretch, they were going to get into that 3rd or 4th position. Sydney, I like the way they just hang around, and they have a certain resilience about them. And I think their coach really energizes them. Joe, I'm not going to be as kind to you as Shane was. Adelaide have no chance whatsoever. So, don't plan a holiday hoping you're going to see some playoff basketball in Adelaide in June.
I wasn't kind. I just dismissed it.
Hey, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, guys. Right, we're moving over to the NBA now. There's been a bit of a feud between Indiana's Goga Bitadze and their assistant coach, Greg Foster. Bitadze missed a defensive play. He went up the other end, was ripped into as he ran up the court, nailed the three, though, and came back down and basically told Foster to sit the F down. A bit of a carnage ensued. Players were having to separate the two. Not a good look for Indiana at all. Derek, at what point does this get too much for a team and too detrimental? And also, I want to know if you've got any similar stories from your playing days.
Wow, this is a tough one, because, Joey Wright used to always call me a peacemaker, and I wanted calm, I wanted focus, but I wanted intensity. I did not respond well to, that type of adversarial climate. Now, I know Shane's going to differ because he was often the source of the, that tension in the locker room. But look here, I know with Gordy McLeod in my time at West Sydney, by the time we had gotten into our 4th or 5th season, Shane, guys wanted to rip his head off. And you're dealing with highly charged, talented, ego-driven, grown men. And when things aren't going right, especially in my last season at West Sydney, I remember I couldn't afford to have an opinion or go with the group against Gordy. Otherwise, as captain, the whole thing would have fallen apart. So I tried to temper everyone and keep it right. But I know some other guys on that team. Whoa, we had some rough team meetings. And there was also a little incident I'm sure everyone's heard about with Kevin Freeman and Joey Wright, where Kevin Freeman took a whole thing of Gatorade, one of those big buckets before practice started, and just dumped it on the floor. And Big Joe Tersakian had to run all over with the towels and try and clean it up. So look, fights happen all the time. Disagreements happen all the time, Shane. It's how you come back like anything else.
Well, I thought for sure you were going to bring up the big pineapple, Brian Curl, after your MVP, and he thought you got a bit big for your britches and gave you the lemon and sauce. But I think it was only because your profile got too big for him. He wanted to be the big dog in town.
That's true.
But for me,
I was famous. Yeah, that's true.
The one for me, though, was Bruce Palmer. I had to have 4 years with him and I just couldn't take another one. And I had to be separated as well because I would have loved to get hold of him as well. That big red nose would have taken care of him. Don't worry about that. But
hey, Shane, what tipped you off, though? What made you explode?
I think the mindset for me, there wasn't a trust with Bruce at all. I didn't like the way he spoke. I thought he was really hot and cold. There was no togetherness in the way he coached. Very good coach, understood the game, but he wasn't a people's person. And I remember in Melbourne, I wanted to strangle him and took off my shoes, took off my tape, took off my socks, and it was only the players that convinced me to come back out, and I had 35 in the second half. So I'm surprised he didn't do it more often, but it's not healthy. It's not healthy. They can say whatever they want and say, yeah, it just happens. It doesn't happen in good teams. It doesn't happen with teams that are together, understand their role and have respect for each other.
Yeah, great insight, guys. That's all we've got time for points made. But Derek, you're going to stick around because thanks to 2K, we are going in depth now, looking ahead to next season. I want to get both of your thoughts on who you would re-sign and go early with based on what you've seen so far this year and trying to improve and go to the next level next season.
Well, this is tough, Shane, and I think we've kind of got different perspectives and different approaches to this. I kind of went team by team, but let's start with your favorite team. Let's start with the Sydney Kings. I see two players as being vital. I would bring back Ware and Vodanovic. I'd be trying to get them signed up. Casper may already have more years left on his contract, but I want to make sure everything is right. And I like what Vodanovic has done this season. He's tough. He can play inside. He defends well, and he can step out and knock down the three. I'm not sure what you think about the Kings.
Well, I think Tom would fit any team, to be honest, because he's such a complimentary player that plays hard. He can hit the three, like you say. But the big one for me is Jarrell Martin. I just think he's unique in our league. I think he's somebody they have to go with, somebody that can play with his back to the basket. He can play off the dribble, creates mismatches, and I think he'd be way better in his second year, knowing that you've got three imports. You've got to couple up your sleeve now. If they had Casper and Jarrell, and now another import spot, potentially with Cooks coming back, he's one I'd go early with now.
You know who I like from Adelaide? As we jump over, I would go after Humphreys. You can see the difference he makes in the team. He's a significant impact player. I like Humphreys, and I try and make sure I had Desh. I like Desh's low maintenance. He's a good offensive player, and I think he's a type of player where you can fit him into different styles of play, different systems, and he seems to have a really positive energy, and he has got a good vibrancy out on the floor.
There's no doubt Sunday Dech is one of the best defenders and role players in the competition. I think he's on an extended contract, so they've got him locked in. No doubt with Josh Giddey going to the States, they'll bring in an American point guard. That's a great combination. But I'd also sign Brandon Paul right now. I think Brandon Paul I think he'd be good next year. And again, knowing that you got 3 imports, not so much if you had 2, but I think he's a piece that would continue to get better. Now he knows the league, and there's no doubt Isaac Humphries, he's going to continue to get it. I love his passion this year. He was fantastic against the Kings with 6 blocks, and I think he's going to play some good basketball towards the end of this season.
What about Melbourne United, guys? They've got 1 import at the moment up their sleeve, but they're full of depth. What would you be looking at for next year?
Joe, you read my mind. I was just about to jump to you guys' favorite team. I'm trying to get CG43 back there.
Why? They don't use him.
That wasn't the question.
He gets no usage.
If you got a problem with Dean Vickerman, we can talk about that shortly.
I love Dean Vickerman, but he doesn't get him enough usage.
Well, you know what? We still got to have him out there, and I agree. Just run some pin downs, get him going, because I think he's so talented. He brings other people into it. He's an unselfish player. He's far more unselfish than I would have been. I would have lost my mind by now. But anyway, I've got CG43, and I've got to bring my man back, JLA. He is the 6th man of the year. That dude is a factor. If they're able to beat Perth, he will be the reason why. Mark my words right now. You know who he is, right?
Yeah, I know who he is, and he's good, and they've got that much money and they just buy that much talent that they'll come up with some good options. I want to go over to Perth, and I want to talk about, you've got to get John Mooney done now. You've got to get him done. I mean, he has been incredible. He's only going to continue to get better. These agencies going to ask for NBA outs. You give him NBA outs as well, knowing again that you got the 3 imports, get a late replacement in, but they're going to try and lock him up. It's a great place to live, Australia. The NBL's a great league to play in. He would be loving life right now. Get him done.
Shane, I'm not sure there's a more compatible league for Bryce Cotton and John Mooney to play in anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And Perth are lucky to have both of them on the same team.
Well, I don't think they're lucky. I think they've actually recruited really well, and we tip our hat to the fact that they've been able to find somebody that does fit that, complement Bryce Cotton, and again, Magnay coming in, and a 3rd import next year, then they've laid the foundation. They're always going to be in the top 4.
I could play that 3rd import spot, Joe, and get a ring.
I would pay to see that. All right, we'll hold you to it. What about the Phoenix? What are you doing if you're Simon Mitchell for next year?
Oh, Simon Mitchell's back?
Yeah.
We're theorizing. He's going to make the signatures of the signings now, isn't he?
Okay, fair enough. I've been saying it all year, and I know there's some people that have been critical of Kyle Adnam lately. I think the coaching staff made a few errors in the way they handled him. And I would still be trying to get him. And of course, Mitch Creek, who has seemingly gone into a bit of a funk.
And so you'd still look to sign him for next season early?
Yes. I'm getting those guys locked away. I'm not going with an American point guard. You've got nothing this year out of Kiefer Sykes. Absolutely nothing.
Well, I think they're going to nail their imports next year. No doubt Mitch Creek's a superstar, but there's something drastically wrong at Southeast Melbourne. They're playing with no passion, no care, no leadership, no accountability at the moment. Simon Mitchell, I didn't know much about him, but he just whinges way too much. He talks way too much. He's concentrating on the referees more than he's concentrating on keeping his players accountable. There was one time that happened there was his player's fault, and he just wanted to bitch at the referee the whole time rather than actually educating his player not to foul a 3-point shooter. So they need to be able to look in the mirror right now, because they are limping to the finish line. They're the worst defensive team in the competition. They need 3 good imports next year, and the pressure is on for them to finish on a high.
What impact do you think Brokoff being unable to play consistently is having on the team? You know that feeling, Shane, when you walk into practice and when you got the whole crew there, there's a hype, there's an energy that's different to when you come in and you've got a star player sitting on the sideline. Another guy can only go, he's on a time restriction at practice. Another guy can't go, no wonder they're struggling.
No, well, you could say the same about the Sydney Kings, but they're bringing in the energy. They're missing more than what Southeast Melbourne are. And I think the biggest problem there is that they played good basketball before Ryan Brokoff even got here, because they were playing hard, they were playing together, they were energised, they tried to make things happen. I'm not seeing any of that right now. They're sucking their thumb right now, and they need to be able to find a way. And I'm not seeing any leadership. when things aren't going right, you're looking around and they're all got their shoulders down, they're cowering. I'm not seeing anybody now, come on, let's get a stop. There's none of that going on. So where's the leadership when things aren't going right? That's when you get judged, not when things are great and everyone's chest bumping and everything else.
Hammer, what about your other favourite team, Illawarra? Let's assume that Brian Goorjian is staying next season. He's contracted, as the club have said. Where on earth do they go from here?
Well, I mean, I think they've got good foundations. When you've got guys like Froling in the front court that's young, they've got some good Australians. They need to get their imports right. I don't think they did that this year. When you spend so much money on the big fella that just got released, that they told us wasn't released last week, but then got released on the same day. Now you've got a whole lot big budget to be able to spend to be able to get things done. So they've got a pocket of money that they can really recruit. I think it starts with their imports. They didn't get that right. We know Simon can't score at all. He's a great defender, but they need more than that in the NBL when you've only got 2 imports. And I would assume if Gorge is there, they get that right next year.
I'm going to look at their need, and I think they need a good dynamic point guard. Harvey is an excellent player, but he's probably not in command of the tempo of the game enough. And I think Illawarra need a bit more of that. They've got some pieces up front that don't get utilized enough. And Harvey's a terrific player, but I think they're probably going to have to move off of both of those imports. And Emmett Nar probably isn't the answer. So I would be looking, Shane, at a top level Australian point guard to come in there and try and make a difference. I mean, do you look at maybe a Jason Kadee for Illawarra? I know we're talking about early, but who knows what Kadee is going to do once a new coach is hired here? Is he going to want Kadee? Is he not going to want Kadee? Maybe that's a place where Kadee goes and can run the show, and now you've got somebody that can get things going for you. And then you've got Greta, you've got Froling, you've got Ogilvie. And Ogilvie's had a very good season, Shane, despite your doubt. He has been good this year. Would you agree or no?
I would, and I think AJ needs a coach like Brian Goorjian that's really specific. He's going to keep you accountable on a lot of things. He hasn't made some of those bad decisions and things that he's made in the past. I think he's had good leadership this year. And I think Jason Kadee's a really good suggestion for the Illawarra Hawks. I think he would fit, add 3 Americans there. And I see Nar. How do you see Nar compared to an Adnam or a Weeks or a Dufelmeyer and those sort of players?
No, he's that next level down. He's more, I wouldn't have him in the regular rotation. I would think he's, your 9th man, and he's getting minutes based on the context of the game. But, I'm not confident in his shot. It seems like sometimes he shies away from the moment. Look, he was obviously a good player in college and he's shown flashes, but by now, is this his 3rd season in the league? I would have expected a little bit more at this point in terms of his development.
You guys mentioned Jason Kadee. If you were in charge of the Bullets, do you lock him in before he has the chance to go to Illawarra?
Depends what his price tag is, Joe. I'm not sure a new coach is going to want to go that way. I have a feeling if someone else comes in, they're going to bring in a dynamic American point guard to go with Sobey. I think that's the best combination. Shane, what do you think?
Yeah, and it just depends on the philosophy of the coach and what players he wants to bring with him, the style of play and all the rest of it. But the big one that I want to get to, because I know you got a strong opinion in Cairns about Machado. Come on, let that rip, and then I'll get a counter for you.
Okay. I went and saw the Taipans play the Bullets earlier in the season, and I love just watching timeouts and how the point guard, because the point guard and his temperament is vital to the team's success. And I thought Machado was just a little bit down. I didn't see the same energy I saw last year. And obviously, his productivity this year is nothing like it was last year. There are problems up there. We've known that all year long. Who would I go for this year? I think I would go to Scott Machado gracefully and try and get out of that contract and allow him to move on. There will be takers for his services in the NBL, and I would try and promote Dufelmeyer or bring Weeks in. And now I've got 2 Australian point guards, one younger, one a bit more seasoned, and now I can do something and build around that. I feel confident with those 2 guys. Now they need to be coached up and specifically instructed what is expected of them. But now I think you're in a better situation and you get out of that. Machado just may not be happy up there, man.
Well, I agree with the Weeks suggestion. I think he's going to be in demand from a number of teams. Wollongong or Illawarra might be another team. But I disagree with Machado. I think Machado has definitely been hurt. And as we saw with Oliver both those guys were different this year. They didn't have the talent around them. I think with Noy out, they just didn't have the people who could put the points on the board. Machado needs scorers around him. He's trying to do things that just aren't in his natural game right now. When they need points, he just can't do it. He's a playmaker. He wants to play off the pick and roll. He wants to get in gaps and to be able to bring other people into the game. And I think with 3 imports back next year, he's the perfect player in Cairns if you get the right amount of talent around him. And I think then he lifts it. I agree that his leadership probably hasn't been what you would want, but I haven't seen it from anybody up there.
If there's something wrong with things off the court, though, can that really be rectified on the court in one more season's time?
So, Joe, if it's toxic, it's done, right?
That's kind of how I feel about it, but Hammer, you've got a different opinion.
No, well, I think you just make adjustments. I think that they didn't handle the injuries well this year. They had a great season last year, and then people were having to do things that they weren't great at, and they didn't handle it well. I don't think Machado or Oliver handled it well when you're an import and you have to try and get wins, and all of the pressure is on you guys to be able to get that done. They didn't handle it, but I still think he's the right player. You have to get those other pieces around him, and I think a team like Cairns, they're not getting better than Scott Machado. We raved about him last year, saying he was the best point guard in the competition. You just don't lose your game overnight and now all of a sudden say you're not the right fit. I think he is. I think he'll learn from the experience, and I think he'll be better next year.
If I was Machado's rep, Shane, if I was Machado's agent, you know where I'd be trying to get to?
Where?
Brisbane.
I thought you were going to say Perth.
No, I'd be trying to get right down here. You put Machado with Sobey and some of those other pieces. I'd even bring back Patterson. Like now you've got those big boys up front. You've got Hodgson, Froling. I don't mind Harrison. And then all of a sudden another import still. And now Brisbane is they're deep.
I agree. Machado would be perfect. I wouldn't bring back Patterson. I wouldn't let him leave. I'd make him jump on the treadmill every single day and say, you're not going home, big fella, because when you're in shape, you are an all-star 5. But right now, he looks like me.
All right, finally, guys, if you're Matt Walsh, what are you doing with the Breakers next year? Derek, you're keeping Levi Randolph there?
Yeah, I like Randolph. I think Randolph's a very efficient player. He shoots the ball well, seems to be low maintenance. He's just a really balanced import. And you know what you're getting with him. You're getting 14 points a game, almost 50% shooting, solid. The other, I can only keep one Webster. I'm sorry, Shane. I know they're your crew. I can only keep one. I don't care which one it is. They can go home, flip a coin for all I care. And one of them comes back and is like, yo, I won the coin toss. All right, come on, let's roll.
No, I'm going both Websters. And I don't think we can really judge. Well, I don't think we can judge it because they haven't had a chance to really be fit, get any sort of momentum together.
We saw that early in the season.
No, we didn't because Corey was out. Remember, he stabbed himself with that avocado or whatever he did. So he missed a whole chunk of basketball. They have hardly played together. They've been able to do it internationally. I think they are both elite players. There's been imports coming and going, the whole lot of it. I think you need to give them a chance. You need to get the right pieces. But for me, they need to get hold of Finn Delaney. I think he's a superstar. Bit of talk that he might go to Europe. They need to lock him in with Abercrombie and then get some good imports, and they've got the nucleus of something that could be great.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Hammer. I like the fact that the Webster brothers would stick together. I really look forward to the rest of this season and seeing them play some games at home, hopefully where they're comfortable and they can really, be in their element, I suppose you could say.
I think they've had it tough. They were on the road. How long have they been on the road for? 6 months or something?
The whole time.
Unheard of. But I think Tom Abercrombie has had a great season. He's been tremendous this year, defensively, offensively. And I just think one of the Websters, I probably lean towards Ty because I think Corey could more easily find another gig. Also, Finn Delaney, be careful what you wish for because often Australian players or Kiwis don't realize the grind of Europe.
What about Colton Iverson? Would you keep hold of him? And if not, why not?
He had a moment where he looked good. He had a few weeks where he looked good, but I'm not sure the body type suits our league over the full course of the season, Shane. Bit too heavy, bit too big, not mobile enough. can't step out and shoot the three. That's a no for me.
No, I would keep him, but knowing that there's going to be certain styles of play that don't fit what he's going to be able to contribute to. And I think when you got 3 imports and you got the sort of local talent they've got, they can bring an import in, they can split time, and they can make things happen. But I'm really surprised that you've said that about the Webster brothers, because I think, you're going to get them to flip a coin. They've been away from home for 6 months, they've been injured, and they've dealt with all of these problems. I think we just need to give them a chance. Ty's a superstar point guard that you don't need to bring an American in, and Corey's one of the best scorers that we've seen in a long time. And I think when they do get a flow and they've got that mix of loyalty together, they're backing each other, I think they're a good combination, and they just need a bit of time.
And I think they're 2 of the better guards to watch. I love watching those guys play, but I'm just wondering, can you have sustained excellence with both of them trying to play the way that they like to play? And the other one is like, where does Will McDowell-White, where does he fit into the equation?
Well, not with those 2, he doesn't, but he could find a job somewhere else. He's a great body type. Still hasn't proved that he's an elite point guard, but he's certainly got the potential to. Just needs to find somewhere that they can sort of give him some time, I reckon.
All right, guys, that is all we've got time for. Derek, thank you so much for joining us again this week. Plenty to recap there. We'll chat to you again next week.
Thank you, Joe. Can I say one final thing also?
Of course.
Shane, some of us have to do a bit of work on their own. Like, you have a lot of time on your hands because now you've got this millionaire daughter, so you don't have to hustle like you used to. So that was a great effort by you today, but I still came away with the win. So I'll check you out next week.
You obviously haven't seen WNBA contracts, brother.
All right, that's just about all we've got time for this week. Shout out to the Knicks and Director Dave in particular.
How happy's Director Dave?
They've just beaten the Clippers for the first time in a decade, which is insane.
He picked it early. He jumped on early.
He did. You didn't like it when he did that either.
Oh, no. I was happy for it, but he just wanted to talk about it after they beat Minnesota or someone. It's like, come on, mate.
Derek Rose for Sixth Man of the Year, definitely. The Utah Jazz as well. They are providing full scholarships for students from underrepresented groups. For each win they have this season, they've got 50 wins plus the 3 preseason games. So just a shout out to the Jazz. Really cool initiative.
Great job.
Great stuff that they are doing.
They're our team.
Yeah, we love the Jazz.
We love the Jazz.
They've got progressive ownership. I love it. They're forward thinking.
Yep. And a very slow Aussie that gets it done.
He does.
Yeah.
Time for our top 5 highlights of the week.
If you don't have our man Jerick from the halfway, he shot a jump shot from the halfway. I've never seen.
It was a fling shot.
It was his jump shot from the half court, and he nailed it right in the middle. Normally that's $5 from everyone on the team.
It's number 2 this week.
Oh, okay. Well, John Mooney with the putback dunk. That was incredible.
Yeah.
Calling that game and whack.
We agree on 2 things.
Yeah,
it's a
it hasn't happened before. That's good. I'm glad.
Never.
Well done, Joe. You're getting better.
Thank you for watching. Thank you to TCL, 2K and News Corp as always. Not so many thanks to you. We'll see you guys next week. New King Jared Weeks is kicking us off this week. He started at the back of the pack and legged it down the court for the stop on Sunday Detch.
Right at Brisbane, Weeks with the hustle play that we've become accustomed to from Agent 97. Stops a certain 2 points. Great chase down play.
Jock Landau shot at 83% from the field as Melbourne United pumped the Phoenix, and Scotty Hopson knew exactly what the outcome was here.
Man in possession right now. Scotty Hopson has 14. Landale from outside. That is pretty.
Nothing but cotton.
Don't worry about the 23 for his highest score of the season, up to 27 right now.
Sunday Detch gets another mention, but this time he was all over the O-boards for the 36ers, not to mention another triple-double for Josh Giddey.
Offensive rebound number 15 for the 36ers, and what a pass! Giddey and the DJ. It's offensive rebound number 5 for Sunday Detch, the game leader in that stat.
At number 2, it's Mirko Jeric from the halfway line. The Taipans went down to the Bullets, but this is absolutely the highlight of the night.
They've got time. Jeric from halfway. Oh, my! That is a jump shot from the half court. He threw a dart from halfway and hit the bullseye.
Number 1 this week is probably the Wildcats signing this guy. But his new teammate made sure to make a statement in their win over the Breakers.
Norton. Oh my! John Mooney with the hammer putback. Where did that come from? Oh my goodness. The one-hand collect and the flush with authority from John Mooney.
This is a co-production by News Corp Australia and Closer Sport.